Here goes nothing. Okay.
So grab a seat. You're the only one today. Give you your packet. And I put my card on here as well. So again, I'm short term, but if you were to call National PEO in the benefits department, there are other people who could definitely help you with questions or concerns. I'll give you a packet here. I'm going to go ahead and take out one page because this one page will pretty much facilitate our whole conversation. In the rest of this packet is all the details, plan summaries, all the descriptions, but the highlights and what probably you would need to make a right decision is already just listed on here for you. And I've got the same thing here myself. Quick bit of background. National PEO, again, we do your payroll and et cetera. So the benefits department is not only in charge of doing the administrative piece of sending in your applications and getting your payroll deduction set up, but if you did have questions, claim concerns, whatever, we're a resource. I often tell people if they're calling the carrier and they're on hold for 10, 15 minutes, push 2, push 3, and it doesn't feel like you're accomplishing anything, sometimes a quick email to us just telling us, spell out what you're trying to accomplish and let us work for you because we do have some contacts behind the scene that maybe we can just make it a lot easier. Okay. So today we're going to talk about health, dental, vision, and some other perk style benefits. What I'll do is I'll walk you through each of the different options and then we'll kind of see what the thought process would be for which one maybe makes the most sense for you. So we usually start with the health insurance just because that's number one on most people's list. Here at 360 there are 3 different health insurance plans. They're all through Aetna. They all have a couple of things in common. So with Aetna as the major medical coverage, it is considered an Affordable Care Act compliant plan when it comes to things like wellness and preventive care. So all of these plans will have things like an annual physical, well woman, if there are kids involved, it would be like well child, well baby, immunizations like a flu shot, all of that should be zero out of pocket. Sometimes you have to take an extra step and let that doctor's office know, just make sure they're aware. They're getting better because this has been in place for a couple of years now. They're getting better, but you just want to make sure I'm here for my wellness visit so they don't try to charge you a copay, things like that. All right, so let's start with the topmost plan, which says Aetna Banner Health. This is the most standard and traditional look and feel of a plan. There's only one little wrinkle that you have to understand, but in general, it's a pretty good plan. So the most common ways that you would use health insurance, copays for doctor office visits. In this case, a primary care would be a $25 copay. That's your family doctor, pediatrician. A specialist, which usually ends in IST, like a dermatologist, cardiologist, things like that, would be a $50 copay. Your deductible, which it's just like car insurance. Deductible is, if it's not covered by a copay, then typically it goes toward your deductible, the money that you pay out of pocket first, and then the insurance carrier kicks in paying the majority after that. So in this case, the deductible is $1,000. The out-of-pocket maximum is $4,000. Okay, so out-of-pocket maximum is something big happens, and that's kind of like your stop loss. That out-of-pocket maximum is the reason why someone on any of these plans would never have a $100,000 medical bill because of the out-of-pocket max stop, and that's based on a calendar year. Okay, so let's see. After you've reached your deductible, then Aetna kicks in paying what's called co-insurance. They're going to pay 70%, leaving you the remaining 30% slice. So it's your 30% slices that would add up to your out-of-pocket maximum. That's how you get from the deductible to the out-of-pocket maximum. For prescriptions, pretty standard, 20, 40, and 60 for your different kinds of drugs. So 20 is for generic, 40 for preferred brand name drugs, 60 for non-preferred brand name drugs. Now when you see 20 for generic, if it's just a $12 prescription, you just pay the $12. Or like if it's on that Fry's $4 list or Walmart $4 list, that's all you'd pay. That's more of a, if it was more expensive, most generics would be covered by no more than a $20 copay. Emergency room and urgent care. You'll see emergency room is a $250 copay. Urgent care is a $50 copay. I'm a big fan of urgent care. Basically, if it's not life or limb threatening, think first, is this a situation where urgent care would work? Maybe it's because you're sick late at night and your doctor isn't open, but you don't necessarily have to go to the emergency room, and a 24-hour urgent care might be great. I had a situation where I burned my foot, really hot water fell on my foot, and that was a great scenario for an urgent care. You end up usually getting in and out faster, and it's cheaper. So now obviously, yeah, life or limb threatening, your heart, whatever, bite the bullet and go to the emergency room. But if the urgent care might work, then I would encourage you to, once you know which plan you're on, find an urgent care who's in the network nearby and program their information into your phone so that when you're bleeding, you're not trying to find them. So, urgent care, big fan. The only thing you need to understand about this plan that makes it a little unusual is it does use a preferred network of doctors and hospitals known as the Banner Health Network. Aetna contracted with Banner Health, which is a third-party organization, and they have an existing network of doctors and hospitals. It's mostly within Maricopa County, and one caveat is you have to live in Maricopa County in order to be on this plan. I don't know if that... Okay. Most do. So the overall network is definitely smaller than the full Aetna PPO network, but it's still a good size. It's not hard to find a doctor who's in this network. The best resource, I've given you a link right there, tinyurl.com/banner network. If you type that in, it will skip you like 8 clicks and you'll go straight into the network for the Banner specific network. Because if you do have a doctor that you really like, you want to continue to see them, we'd want to know, are they not only an Aetna PPO doctor, but are they specifically in this preferred Banner network? Because if you don't go within the Banner network, then it's treated as out of network, even if they are an Aetna doctor elsewhere. So that's the thing to know about that one. That is, again, the richest and most traditional coverage. The next one is a plan that has been in place here for several years, and it's one that is the same plan that we offer for our in-house employees as well. It's a combination plan, and in a lot of ways it can make a lot of sense. What it does is it combines an Aetna high deductible plan as your major medical. So it is major medical, but it's just not as rich of a plan. It's more of a very basic or a catastrophic plan. It's combined with what's called gap insurance to help offset the high deductible and the extra risk of having a minimal kind of a health insurance plan. Let me tell you what the Aetna part will do for you. Okay. Doctor office visit, primary care doctor is just a $15 copay. Now specialist is a little different. If you go and see a specialist, instead of having the benefit of a predetermined copay, you would pay whatever is the contracted rate for that specialist. So let's say it's a dermatologist, and they would say, you know what, for an initial office consultation visit, our person on the street with no insurance rate is $150. But for you, as an Aetna member, our contracted rate is only $83. So you would pay the $83 instead of, like, let's say, a $50 specialist copay. Okay. So if you were someone who saw specialists regularly, that might be a drawback of this plan. For most people, 1, 2, 3 times a year, not relevant dollar amounts to really make a significant difference in which plan is going to make the most sense. So that's how specialists work. Okay. The deductible, whether it's just you or a family of 12, is a flat $10,000. Okay, that's a lot of money. Not a lot of people are excited about what if something big happens if I have to come up with 10 grand. So that's where the gap insurance kicks in. And I'll tell you about that. Just while I'm still on the Aetna piece, the Aetna does cover the prescriptions, exact same as the earlier plan, 20, 40, 60, exact same prescription plan. You'll see that emergency room and urgent care go toward your deductible. But that's where the Transamerica does what it does. And there's more information about not only the plans, but also the Transamerica in here as well. They have what are called summaries of benefits and coverage. So you could look at how does an ambulance ride work, how does a maternity visit work. All those details are built into literature in your packet. Okay. The best and most effective way to get value out of that gap insurance is if something big happens and you end up admitted into the hospital, admitted also known as inpatient, you're in a room with your name on it, you have a $10,000 bucket of money that you can use for your costs, starting with the first dollar up to 10 grand. Now those costs, Aetna is your major medical. The first thing that the hospital, for example, will do is they'll run things through your major medical to get their contracted rates, reduced pricing. Goes from crazy expensive down to somewhat reasonable, but still expensive. Yeah. So once Aetna has negotiated and dropped the price down to their contracted or member rates, then Transamerica would pay dollar for dollar up to $10,000. Now Aetna doesn't care about the Transamerica. All they see is that these dollars are going toward your deductible. Once those have met that $10,000, Aetna covers everything after that at 100%. So if you told me, I know that, in 3 weeks I'm going to walk out this door and get clipped by a Volvo and spend 3 weeks in the hospital and rack up $130,000 in medical bills, I would say go for this middle option, option 2, because it's very likely you could have literally a zero out of pocket overall charge. Because again, the first 10 covered by the gap insurance, after that covered by Aetna at 100%. As we all know, not everything in the world of healthcare means that you got admitted into the hospital. So you can use half of that $10,000 bucket of money, $5,000 worth, in one of 3 key ways. One is for like an outpatient surgery. So let's say it's a foot surgery where you're not going to get admitted into the hospital. You just go in, they do their thing, a few hours later they send you home. So in this case, let's say it's a $6,000 foot surgery. The first $5,000 would be paid by the Transamerica. The remaining $1,000 would be your out-of-pocket cost. Okay. You could also use that $5,000 bucket for fancy tests called radiological diagnostic tests. That might be MRI, CAT scan, PET scan, those kinds of higher dollar tests. And then the last way would be if you have an accident and you end up using the urgent care or the emergency room, you could use $5,000 worth towards those ER or urgent care costs as well. So that's, you're taking down your Christmas lights and you fall off your ladder, accident. Late at night, you got a pain in your side or your stomach or something like that, not necessarily an accident. So that would just go towards your emergency room trip and go towards your deductible, unless it's like an appendix thing and then they admit you in the hospital and you get an appendix or whatever. Now you're admitted, you're inpatient. So it can work out a lot of different ways. My point is, in general, I would call this option 2 combo plan good as just protection against the unknown, especially big stuff. It's not a silver bullet. There are definitely scenarios where you could spend significant money on here, but if you're generally healthy, you don't have anything that you're trying to budget or design a plan for, good protection against the unknown at a pretty appropriate cost for that. The last piece that I didn't mention is critical illness coverage, and this is all built into your cost over here. As a side note, the costs that you see on this deduction sheet, these are per paycheck, but they are pre-tax, which means the IRS has said, hey, if you're spending money on health insurance, same as dental and vision, we're not going to cost you taxes on that. So maybe even though it looks like about $90, maybe your paycheck only goes down by $75, or it depends on what your tax bracket is. So the last piece of this Transamerica is this Transamerica critical illness coverage, which is if one of these big deals happens to you, heart attack, stroke, internal cancer, major organ transplant, also end-stage renal failure, I understand as well. Upon diagnosis, that's before they necessarily do treatment, upon diagnosis, they will just cut you a lump sum check for $5,000. The reason why that's in there is one place where this combo plan was kind of lacking is what if you're in that doctor's office is, sorry to tell you, you have cancer. Well, they don't immediately admit you into the hospital and do that. They might do radiation, chemotherapy, and so it wouldn't necessarily be very well covered by that gap insurance. So the critical illness benefit at least cuts off the first $5,000 and just says, here you go, here's the first $5,000, and makes it a lot more realistic. So that's the combination plan. Do you have any general questions about that?
No, not really, no.
Okay, the last one is the least expensive. There's a reason why it's the least expensive. It is more scaled back coverage, but for a lot of people, you know what, it may be fine. There are plenty of people who are like, you know what, I haven't gone to the doctor in like 2 years, I just want to have something, this is great. So what this does is, it's a $25 copay to see either a primary care or a specialist. Either way, it's just $25. However, you're limited to 3 such visits per member per calendar year. So it's not like if you have a 4th visit, you don't have insurance anymore. It just means that you would pay whatever the cost of that visit is for a 4th doctor visit.
Sure.
Now, those 3 visits, or 3 strikes, if you will, if you're doing a wellness preventive, a routine physical, a flu shot, etc., those don't count as one of your strikes. So you can do those plus 3 for being sick or whatever. So it does have a $2,500 deductible, and then $5,000 is the pocket maximum on this. and the co-insurance is 80%. So you'd pay the first 20, big deal claim, admitted in the hospital or big test or something, first $2,500 is the out-of-pocket as the deductible. Then they pay 80%, you pay 20%. If your 20% slices add up to $5,000, then you're officially done and no more costs on that case. Let's see, emergency room is a $250 copay after deductible, which is important because it means an emergency room trip goes toward meeting your deductible. But an urgent care is just a $100 copay, deductible is waived, so literally $100 bill, that covers whatever they do for you in the urgent care.
Okay.
Prescriptions look similar, 20, 40, 60, except that it's after a $500 separate pharmacy deductible. Okay, so if you are someone who takes more expensive drugs, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, whatever, that may be a reason why it's worth it to pay some extra money and have the more traditional coverage of one of the top two plans. But for a lot of people, if they're not taking any maintenance medications, and what they usually might do here and there is like an antibiotic, a Z-Pak, whatever, and that's going to be a $12 prescription or a $6 prescription, it makes zero difference because it's going to be $6 on any of those plans. So those are some of the things to understand about them. Any questions about the three different health plans? No? So, and with all of the plans that we're talking about, they all would have an effective date of April the 1st.
Okay.
So yeah, we've got another 10 plus days for you to sort it out. But the sooner you turn in your forms, and you would turn them into Tom.
Okay.
So you turn them into Tom, that he gives them to us, we load any appropriate payroll deductions, send your enrollment on to the carrier so that they can get you loaded in their system, send you an ID card, etc.
Okay.
Okay, so dental coverage, there are three different plans. Two are through MetLife Dental, and one is through Total Dental Administrators. I'm going to cheat and skip to the bottom one because it's the least expensive, and frankly, I think if it works for you, why spend the extra money?
Okay.
So here's how it works. It is a dental HMO plan, which means it has a special network of these dentists. You have to go to one of their in-network dentists or the plan does nothing for you. So for that reason, if you have a dentist that you love and they're not part of this dental HMO network, then this probably isn't the best plan for you. But if you're like a lot of people and you're like, yeah, I don't really care, I'm not in love with this person, or I can switch, or I don't even have a current preferred dentist, pick one on their plan. That's not an issue. And there are plenty. There are, I think, 17 or 1,800 dentists in the state of Arizona. Not hard to find one.
Yeah.
The way that this plan works is kind of cool. Everything is a copay. So what they've done is, whether you know it or not, when you do something in a dentist's office, I'll pull this out so I can just show you something real easily.
Okay.
When you go to a dentist's office, anything they do in your mouth has a special code. It's usually a 4-digit code, and it's the same code in every dentist office across the U.S. So what they did is they looked at all the codes, and they said, all right, we're just going to assign a flat copay amount to any of these specific codes. So what it looks like, here is the info session, the info paperwork about this plan. It's the one that has the cowboy on the front. So what they've done is, here are all the various codes. So you can see for what would be called restorative, like fillings, for example, copays of like $10, $20, $26, $30, $12, $24. It depends on how tricky the filling is. Is it just the top of your tooth, the top and the side? That's how it, but it's all copays. So the cool thing is, though, whether you need to do one thing or 17 things, it's all just copays. You never max out.
You can figure out how much you pay.
You can, and this is exactly the process that the billing specialist at a dentist office would use to figure out, you get done with your usual cleaning or checkup. By the way, all three of these plans will cover your twice per year cleanings, zero out of pocket.
Okay.
And none of them have any waiting periods on pre-existing stuff. So you sign up for April 1st, on April 1st, April 2nd, whenever, if you want to go in and do fillings or a crown or a root canal, whatever, that would be fine. So that's the Total Dental Administrators plan. Again, it is the least expensive. There's nothing wrong with it. I've had this plan myself in the past. So why would someone want to spend the extra money to have one of the other richer plans? Let me give you one little piece of advice in this whole conversation about insurance. Anything that says insurance is legalized gambling. In this case, with health insurance, you're betting that you're going to get hurt or sick, and they're betting you're not. So our goal here is just to help you make the best wager based on what we understand about your scenario. That being said, the only guaranteed money is premiums. because we know for a fact this is how much you will pay every paycheck. What we don't know is whether you're going to have health issues or dental issues or things like that. So that's why I value premium dollars spent higher than hypothetical money of what if, because this is guaranteed expenses. So why would we pay more guaranteed money? Could be a couple of reasons. It could be, like we said earlier, that you have a dentist that you like who's not part of this dental HMO network. The MetLife dental network is much bigger. It's 3 or 4 times larger, a lot more dentists in the MetLife dental PPO network. And if you go and see a dentist who's like, I don't mess with insurance at all, I just don't take it, at least there is an out-of-network plan design. So it does have benefits. They're not as good, but yes, it does have an out-of-network benefit as well. And also, if you knew that you had bigger deal issues that you're planning to have to do, so a bunch of fillings, some crowns, or whatever, it may make more sense to spend the extra money out of your paycheck so that when you're at the dentist's office, you have a lower bill. Then the difference between the two of these, they work similarly. They're based on percentages usually. It's just a question of how rich are the percentages and what do they cover. On the low plan, it's not as expensive. It has a deductible. Again, the money that you pay first before they kick in their percentages. In this case, it's a $50 deductible. On the high plan, it's a $25 deductible. So that's lower. $25 is a better deductible. In terms of what they cover, then you can see that for preventive, that's your twice a year cleanings, etc. The certain kinds of X-rays that they would do, those are covered, 100% paid for by the plan. For basic things like fillings, for example, this low plan is going to pay 50%, leaving you the other 50%. The high plan pays 90%, meaning you only get left with a 10% slice. So that's why the high plan is a richer plan. That's why it's also more expensive. So yeah, if you knew you had big deal stuff to do, I'd go for the high plan. If you think you're in generally pretty good shape, especially if you don't care which dentist you see, I bet that the least expensive plan, the dental HMO, is probably just fine. The only reason why I'd really recommend the middle plan is if you want to see a specific dentist who's not a dental HMO dentist, but you don't really think you have big deal dental issues going on, then maybe look at that middle plan. So any questions on the dental coverage?
All the offered, all of them have like a 2 times a year cleaning?
Yeah, they are. Twice a year, and it's they do, I believe they say, from cleaning 1, it needs to be 180 days later, and then to do cleaning 2. You can't do, in February and do cleaning 2 in March.
Sure,
They make you spread them out.
Okay.
So, and one thing I should have mentioned to you is, how do you enroll for these? Yes, you would check a box, because that's like our double check to make sure we get you enrolled in what you want. But within this packet, then there's an enrollment form for Aetna. Here's the Aetna enrollment form, and all you need to do is, if you can differentiate which is the right plan, yeah, fill out this middle section. If not, so long as you've submitted this or you've written on here, the Banner Health plan or the Combo plan or the Value 2500 plan, we can make sure that the right box is checked and you get enrolled correctly. You'll note that this form does say dental and life. We offer those, but we don't do them through Aetna. So don't worry about this. Just tell us who you are at the bottom here. Fill out your information. Page 2 is, do you have current or prior coverage? In here tells us who is enrolling. Is it just you, dependents, anything like that? This is the waiver section. If you're saying no thanks, then just fill out the waiver, and that way at least we know that you were offered it and you said no thanks. And then finally, sign the last page. That's done for Aetna. The only thing that's an extra step is if you do that combination plan, that uses Aetna and Transamerica, so we need a Transamerica form for you as well, which is in here. Just, again, with any of these forms, do your best, fill out what's obvious, what you're comfortable, what you know. If there's anything that's missing that we can't figure out, we'll call you.
Okay.
All right, so that's the health insurance enrollment. The dental enrollment is part of this big old ancillary benefits packet. Ancillaries like dental, vision, etc. So the MetLife information is in here. It's what we just talked about. It's the high plan and the low plan, the percentages, and any of the details you might be looking for, followed by the total dental administrators that we just talked about. And then you get to the MetLife enrollment form, where you would tell us who you are, and then you would tell us which of these 3 plans you want, the high, the low, or the dental HMO plan. If you do should choose the HMO plan, at some point you'll need to hop on their website and pick who is your dentist going to be, your primary dentist. You can switch at any point, but if they're a dentist and they're accepting new patients, it will have a 5-digit office code. So they'll load you onto that office code. They'll have you in their roster, so that when you call and say, I'd like an appointment, we'll say, oh, we see you on our roster, would you like to come in? And then just tell us employee only, employee plus spouse, whatever you're enrolling in. This next page is just a bunch of things that says don't commit fraud, and then the last page is where you'd actually sign. So that's the dental enrollment. That's pretty much it for me for dental. Any questions on that?
Nope.
All right. Vision, I usually say if someone wears glasses or contacts, you probably come out ahead. If not, no big deal. You maybe skip it, leave the money in your bank account, and every once in a while pay for an eye exam. Do you wear glasses or contacts?
Yeah.
You do. So here is what I would say. The couple of things that are the most consistent, biggest benefits of this are, when you go to get your prescription checked once a year, it's just a $10 copay. And then you get a $130 allowance each year to use towards either glasses or contacts. Unfortunately not both,
Right.
but one or the other, $130 towards offsetting those costs. That information's in here. It is through MetLife. By the way, if you sign up for MetLife Dental and or Vision, they just use your social. They don't even issue an ID card. It's just, all you have to know is I have MetLife, and give the provider your social. They would look up your coverage that way. So MetLife Vision, we talked about just a little bit, but it will spell out for you the rest of the differences. Here's where you see the $130 allowance, and if you did it at Costco, it's a slightly lower allowance, but they still have a benefit of going through Costco. And if you're signing up for the Vision, there's a simple Vision page, just tells you who you are. There's no options because it's just the one plan. Take it or leave it. It's just a very standard Vision plan. So you would sign up for that, and again, turn it into Tom. Any questions on the Vision?
Nope.
Okay, disability is in here. It's on the front and back as you turn it over. It's through Colonial Life. Disability, the simplest way to think of disability is if you get hurt or sick and a doctor says you can't work, then disability will pay you cash in the meantime until you're back at work and back and up and running. So people would use this kind of short-term disability to make sure they've got the cash to pay for certain basic expenses, your rent or your car or phone or whatever. Now you have a lot of flexibility in how you would enroll, and all of these benefits, they're all a la carte. You don't have to do any, or you don't have to take them all together. You could do just health, not dental, but vision, and pick and choose from any of them.
Okay.
So what this page shows you is there are a couple of choices you would make if you're signing up for the disability. You either choose that it'll last for 6 months, 3 months, or for 6 months. The longer it lasts, the better the benefit, the more it would cost. Okay. Then the question is, how soon also do you need it to kick in? Does it need to kick in after just 1 week, or can you afford to not have it kick in until 2 weeks? If it doesn't kick in for 2 weeks, it's cheaper. So the least expensive way to get disability coverage like this is have it kick in after 2 weeks for a 3-month benefit, 90 days, 3 months. And this being the case, since you are obviously under age 50, the cost would be $1.65 per $100 unit. So for simple math, if you wanted to just have $1,000 of cash per month to pay some basic expenses, that would be 10 $100 units, or 10 times this $1.65, basically $16.50 per month to have that $1,000 of if something happens.
Okay.
So $16.50 per month, or $8.25 per paycheck. So that's the disability. If you were signing up for that, this very back page, you just say, here's who I am. Do I want it for 3 months or 6 months? What's the right dollar amount for me? You can do as little as $400 up to 2/3 of your earnings. So if you make $3,000 per month, you can cover $2,000. Okay, that's the limit. And 7 days or 14 days. How long does it need to wait? This is some basic medical questions that they do have to answer. If you have a big issue or they think, oh geez, this person's about to go out, because then they wouldn't write you a policy. But basic medical questions, sign up. Again, it's one more, turn it into Tom.
Okay.
The one piece that I didn't quite talk about yet is life insurance, which is someone cares about you or you care about someone, and if something were to happen to you, making sure that there's some money to either put you in the ground or cover final expenses or whatever. I don't know. Are you married? Do you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what the purpose of this life insurance is. It is Pretty straightforward. It's based on your age. They do it in $10,000 increments. The minimum you can do is $10,000 up to $100,000 of coverage, or what they call a guaranteed issue, meaning no medical questions. You don't have to pee in a cup, blood draws, anything like that. You sign your name, they will write you this. You can do more than $100,000, but then you have to at least fill out some medical questions. It's called a statement of health form that you have to do.
Okay.
The cost to you is your age, which I'm assuming you're going to be in this 9 cents per thousand range. So it's 9 cents per $1,000 of coverage. So if you did the minimum of $10,000 of just a very minimum amount, would be 90 cents per month to have a flat $10,000. Okay. If you did the full guaranteed issue amount of $100,000, it would be $9 per month to have $100,000 of life insurance for just in case. So that's how this all works out. There's a little calculator helper page, and if you were to sign up for this, by the way, you can cover your spouse for half as much as you do for yourself. So if you do $100,000 on you, you can cover your spouse for $50,000. Do you have any kids?
No.
Okay, don't have to worry about that piece. All right, so here's the enrollment form. Tell us who you are, and here, this is not it. Sometimes people see that and it's not. This is called supplemental life. So the question is, for you or a spouse or a kid, how much? And you would just write in there, $50,000 or whatever is the right amount. And we do the math. And then here is the beneficiary form, which is if something did happen to you, who gets the money? So ordinarily your spouse is your primary beneficiary. The money goes to them first. If they're not available, like you are both in the same car that gets hit by a semi, then it goes to your contingent beneficiary, like a parent, a sibling, a trusted friend, whatever. That's this contingent. Sign, turn it in. That's most of it. There are some other perks that are listed on here. PerkSpot is just a website to see things like discounts on Six Flags or movie tickets or gym memberships or things like that. That's PerkSpot. 529 college savings plan is if there's someone that you care about, whether it's kid, niece, nephew, yourself, someone who might be spending money on back to school expenses, college, post-secondary expenses. That's a way to set aside money and get some tax breaks to put it in an investment to hopefully have it grow. You do have a connection to MetLife Home and Auto. So Home and Auto insurance, we get discounts because of the deal that we struck, and they can actually do it as a payroll deduction. Just comes straight out of your paycheck. You actually get some percentages off for doing it like that. Legal Shield is a membership service to have lawyers that can help you with all kinds of things. Pretty cool. Elastic is brand new, and that is a way to do a payday loan to yourself out of a future paycheck, basically. United Pet Care is like a discount program if you have animals and you're willing to go to one of their veterinarians. And My Notification Services is it's this deal where you get a sticker that goes on the side of your car window and a card that goes in your wallet, and it says if you're in an emergency, the first responder gets this card, calls one number, and it automatically alerts like up to 9 of your closest contacts, including your babysitter and your spouse and your work and your doctor and all that stuff, to tell them what's going on with you. Anyway, those are just little perks. They're all take it or leave it, a la carte. So I got one more thing I forgot to tell you about. Flexible spending account, which is if you spend predictable expected money on health, dental, or vision costs, medical costs, prescriptions, whatever, there's a way to save taxes on that. I don't know if that's your case offhand. So if you were going to go do some dental work and you expected to do $600 worth of dental work, plus I also take a prescription that's $50 a month, then maybe it makes sense to set aside some money out of your paycheck pre-tax, so that then it gets front-loaded onto a debit card. So let's say you elect $1,000. That $1,000 is right there immediately. You can go and use it to pay for your dental costs, and you will just repay that out of your future paychecks until it's all paid off. But the savings, the only reason to do it is for tax savings. So.
And it's any, I guess, medical, dental, or vision?
It is
Okay.
not over the counter stuff unless you have a prescription for the over the counter, and they're always tweaking and retweaking that. It used to be that you could do over the counter, like people would stock up on NyQuil and things like that. But now it would be like if your doctor wrote you a prescription for NyQuil or Zyrtec or whatever, then you could claim it and use it. But yeah, for doctor office visit copays, pharmacy copays, dental work, glasses and contacts, if you set aside that money, then it goes in here. The one thing is, it is called use it or lose it money. So if you over budget and you don't spend it all, typically you lose it. And I say typically because that's how it was up until several months ago when the IRS changed its policy and says you can roll over up to $500 per plan year.
Calendar year.
And in this case, I'm glad you mentioned that. This is a weird plan year. This resets every June the 1st. So you could do it now, and you could pick an amount that you would use between April the 1st through the end of May. So if you knew you were about to go do dental work, yeah, you could do that. But everyone will have a new chance to enroll in the month of May for a full 12 months starting June the 1st.
June
So
1st.
yeah, you could sit on
And
it
this
for
is
a couple
the,
months. Flexible spending account, FSA.
Flex account. And it doesn't matter who you signed up with. If you have a flex account, it always restarts on June 1st, right?
No, just
this
through
one.
through our master
Oh.
plan through National PEO.
Okay.
Realistically, way back in the day when they very first started this program, they started it in June, and it's just been June ever since. It is kind of nice for me. My wife has this, and I have it as well. So she picks her amount in January, and then I see how we're doing in June, and then I either don't elect or I elect more because we've had certain expenses or we haven't. So it gives me some flexibility to balance.
So if June 1st rolls around, I can start putting money into this flex account for next year in April or May.
So
before
what it would be
June
is
1st comes.
In the
If I
middle of
wanted
May.
to do LASIK or something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used FSA money when I did LASIK several years ago. In the middle of May, we will send a notice to Tom to distribute to all of you that says, do you want to participate in the FSA? If so, fill out this form and tell us how much you are electing. By the way, that sign-up form is in your packet.
Okay.
So let's say you knew you wanted to do LASIK and it was going to cost you about $1,500. You could say my elected amount is $1,500, and then it would break that down into 26 segments, and you'd pay that small amount, $40 or whatever it is, every paycheck until at the end of the year, at the end of next May, it's all paid back. But the full $1,500 for this medical card or whatever would be waiting for you. So you can use a debit card to pay for things, or you can pay for it and then submit a receipt and get reimbursed as well. They'll just give it back to you in the form of a check or a direct deposit.
Okay. So I know that it works for LASIK. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. But what about for braces?
Yeah, you could use that for orthodontia,
Okay.
definitely. What you couldn't necessarily use it for is cosmetic,
Sure.
veneers or things.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome. Again, if you have questions, give us a call. The benefits department can help. If you were, got home and you're like, what did he say about that? Give us a call, and then just turn it into Tom as soon as you have your all your choices made.
Okay. That sounds perfect.
All right, very good.
Awesome.
We'll do it.